email in advance
Okay,
in case you want to show up in person.
sure. We could wear our Santa Claus hats.
Of course you can show up without me. What was the question? I'm sorry.
I just said we'll wear our Santa Claus hats.
Exactly. Exactly. I can't remember if Patrick Salas said she was going to miss this one or not. Doesn't matter.
We have so many Pats and Jans and Judys.
Yes.
All mixed up.
Yes.
There was the other lady who sat here last time.
Andrea, I think her name was.
She had a lot of interesting connections.
Yes, yes. Okay, I'm thinking well, let's wait another minute. Yep, even my computer phone says it's not quite 1. Now, Carol, you're getting ready to go, right? You're muted.
Yes, the group arrives. We're going on a pilgrimage to Le Puy in Lyon, where the Sisters of St. Joseph were founded. And we're going, everybody's showing up at the center on Monday. We fly away Tuesday.
Oh, Monday, this coming Monday.
Coming Monday, yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm going to do that so I can see Jan.
Yeah,
Janet Schlitz. So the timing of my trip and your trip coincide. Perfect.
Indeed. Yeah. Hopefully the planes will fly.
I'm pretty confident they will. Okay, let us from Jan Schlitz. She's just back from a trip and may have to be off depending on what's going on. We understand. Totally. So Martin Buber, what an amazing chapter, what an amazing human being. And I thought, since we haven't done this yet, Jan Schlitz and Judy and I have met John Philip in person. Carol and Jackie may have met him. Okay, now select. Hold on, I'm going to have John Philip introduce. Martin Buber to us. Okay. There it is. Oh, look at me, man. Wow. You did it. I'm so impressed with myself.
Absolutely.
It takes so little.
You should be.
Let me give you a little background. For those of you who've not met John Philip Newell in person, I'd like for number one, for you to see him, to hear him speak a little bit in his beautiful Scottish accent. And you'll notice a couple of trademarks of his. One of them is that he always wears a scarf. And when I asked him about that on Iona, John Philip explained that as a young boy, he had throat issues that affected his voice. He had a lot of sore throats and illnesses in his throat. And there was a time when they were concerned about whether he would have a strong voice at all. So in deference to that background, he always wears a scarf. And he also points out that the neck area is the chakra that controls communication, voice, and the ability to express ideas. And so his wearing a scarf is done with reverence to all of those things. And I like to point out that this is what the little video we're going to watch is of the book launch just almost exactly a year ago right now, when they had a celebration to launch The Great Search book. And John Philip was there and introduced the whole book. And I like to refer to the outfit that you can see on the screen right now as John Philip Newell's version of black tie, because normally he wears blue scarves, and this is his dress-up outfit, if you will. So let's have John Philip tell us a little bit about Martin Buber. It's not a long piece. It's his way of introducing. And then we will go forward.
A future for humanity. Chapter 3 is Seeking Presence, and the prophet that I draw from is the great Jewish teacher Martin Buber, who experienced the rise of Nazi power in Germany before having to flee to Jerusalem for his safety. Buber is inviting us to seek divine presence everywhere, in everyone, in every life form. And he speaks of that sacred presence as the eternal thou that is at the heart of one another and is also at the heart of our own being. But that's to talk about what Buber invites us into. And I think Buber would agree with me that it's much more to experience that rather than just talk about it. So I'm going to invite you to do something that will horrify you introverts and will delight you extroverts. But I'm just inviting us to do it for just 2 seconds. And that is, look into the light in the eyes of someone next to you. Okay, come back, you extroverts. I said 2 seconds. So guess what we just experienced? The eternal thou. This light that shines from within. And Buber is inviting us to know that even in the way we look at one another, we can convey the presence of the eternal thou. And to look to serve that thou in one another and to liberate it. Chapter 4 is Seeking Awareness.
Okay, I think you can all hear me, right? Yeah, good. Anybody have reactions to hearing or seeing John Philip or what he said? You don't need to, but if you do, share them.
I have a response. I liked that he gave a practice. I thought he was going to talk quite a bit, and he just gave a simple practice, and then he was moving on to the next chapter. As I read this chapter, I felt like he was trying to use a lot of words to say words aren't necessary.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I think I wrote down in my journal, I need to start looking people in the eyes.
Mhm.
You know, when I talk to them, when I meet them, when I see them, my kids, my grandkids, a stranger, a neighbor, somebody in a discussion group. It's really easy not to do that.
Mhm.
And so it's like, oh, well, that's a really good idea. And I'm real curious how that's going to turn out. So we'll see. But I've said it out loud now, so that sort of makes it real for me and for you. So, we'll see.
That's beautiful. I just have to say this for those who have not met John Philip. This is quintessential John Philip to just just quietly get up there and look right at you in the group and come up with a practice. Thanks so much for sharing this, Shelby.
Sure. Well, we need to remember who our author is here, right? It's so easy to focus on these individual people that he is giving us a portrait of, but we do need to remember it's all coming through John Philip. So here's what I'd like to do today. I've kind of selected a series of quotes. I'm sure they match what you've done and what you've underlined or highlighted as you went through this chapter. And what I think what might be interesting is for each person, let's just go around the room and we're going to start with the very first chapter, the very first sentence of the chapter. And read the sentence for us, and then tell us if you have any reaction to it. And Carol Crapo, let's start with you.
Part, part of the widespread spiritual search of today is the yearning to know the divine, not just to know about the divine. I marked it. And I think the reason I marked it is because for me, it spoke not only to my mind, but it spoke also to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I love Martin Buber. And there's just one example in the chapter that translated the whole thing for me. And it was when he was talking about the little boy with the horse.
Yeah.
And he petted the horse and walked by the horse and did everything that you do externally for the horse, and commented sometimes the hair was matted, sometimes the hair was smooth. And then one of the days, the horse looked him in the eye. And actually, that's what John Philip Newell just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was that example is the literal translation of a thou doesn't only mean a person, it can also mean all of creation. And in this instance, as it was a horse. But sometimes we probably experience, well, that's the tragedy we're experiencing, that some people see others as its.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the tragedy of the opposite of Buber. So thank you for calling on me. I was ready for that one. Thank God. Thank God.
Anybody else have reactions to that statement? And we should add into it the line that's a little further down in that paragraph, that the world, says Buber, is lit by eternity. It is lit from within. Does anybody have reactions to that? Jan, I can't hear you. Now you're muted. Huh.
I wasn't speaking.
No, I'm sorry, Jan McCabe was
Can you
speaking.
hear me?
Oh, okay.
Now we
Yes.
hear you. Thank you.
It just immediately brings me to a really deep moment of gazing at my mom and my mom gazing at me a couple weeks before she died. And so I was crawled up on her bed with her, and her eyes were lit by eternity. And
Mm,
it was a light from within her. And I'm sure she was seeing the light from within me. It was just,
mm,
so this gave me words for something that's so precious and hard to find words for.
yeah, yeah. And a real experiencing the divine, not hearing about it. That was a true experience.
Mhm.
Yeah. So let's go on to the next story, which is on the next page, 52. And we've got the rabbi in the stream. And on 52, the sentence in quotation marks at the very top of the page on 52. Judy, you want to read it and then react to it for us? Judy, you need to unmute.
Okay. The water that we see flowering past us now will never flow past us again. I love that. I try to live my life like that all the time, trying to live in the moment and enjoy what's happening now and not worrying about the future or the past.
Mm,
So this one really resonates with me because I try, it's not always easy, but I try really hard to do that.
mhm, mhm.
Enjoy the now.
Yeah, yeah. Anybody else have reactions to that description? And remember, the young boy, in the rabbi's face, the young boy glimpsed the countenance of the divine. If you're really present, you can experience that.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I live near a river, the Dungeness River, and what I've thought until I read this sentence, when I go to the river, is the metaphor of the ongoing grace that the river's flowing constantly is showing me in physical form, that God's grace is ever flowing. It never flows exactly the same way if I go Friday at 9 o'clock and I come back at 2. And so when I read this, the water that we see flowing past us will never flow past us again. Yes. I just never used those words. So there are so now I'm just thinking off the top of my head because I'm an extrovert, that this ever flowing grace that I see when I go at 9 o'clock keeps coming. And the next time I'm there, it's even more different grace that's flowing than I can see. It's incomprehensible
Mm,
and so amazing.
yeah. Very much like being held by the rabbi in the middle of the stream.
Sort of makes you wonder where the water's going.
Mm-hmm.
Where does it end up?
Mm-hmm.
No, and it reminds me of the scripture, behold, I make all things new.
Ah. Oh, Jan, you are so perceptive. We're going to get there in just a minute. um, uh, um, Carol, a very good friend of mine, selected a song for her funeral service, memorial service, at which I presided. And the song was When the River Meets the Sea.
Yeah.
And for her, that
Mm.
kind of described the fact that we don't know, but we might know when the river meets the sea, whatever that may be, whenever and whatever that may be.
Mm.
So a little further down on page 52, we get John Phillips' recitation of the facts of Martin Buber's life. Born in Vienna of an Austrian Jewish family in 1878, and lived and taught in Germany during the Nazi rise to power before he fled, is that correct? Fled to Jerusalem for safety in 1938. Fled, sorry. When I read this chapter, I am so reminded that we can be critical of Israeli politics without being anti-Semitic. And in fact, this Jewish thinker is one of the most profound thinkers I think we'll meet in this book. He's quite remarkable. So let's go on to page 53, where he introduces the whole I, thou, and I, it relationship. When my depths meet your depths, we are experiencing the divine presence in and through the other. That's at the very end of the first paragraph. Can somebody describe to us the difference between I, thou, and I, it?
I don't know that I can do it accurately, but very simply, the way I see it, the I it is looking at something or as an object or someone objectively, and the I thou is clearly subjective. It's a part of you. It's, a spiritual experience. And you have both, for me, the I its happen a lot. The I thous are few and far between. Just a simple explanation, at least
Mm-hmm.
how it speaks to me. So.
Mm-hmm. The Mary Martha biblical story kind of goes to that, doesn't it?
Mm.
Mary's sitting and listening, and Martha is tending to all the chores and is getting frazzled and challenges Mary's choice. And of course, Jesus says Mary chose more wisely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So let's go on to 54. And we talk here about, on 54, how at the end of the paragraph, of the carryover paragraph onto 54, would somebody read the last two sentences or so? Start with in that moment Tony, maybe you'd do it.
Okay, I'm not seeing the
At the
reality.
top of 54, right after the italics, buy her some tulips.
Oh, in that moment.
Yeah.
In that moment, we have moved from our encounter of presence into the world of action and getting things done. The reality, says Buber, is that we live in a profoundly twofold world. The realm of I thou and the realm of I it. They are not two worlds, they are one, and they need each other. I loved this. I think it rounds out what Buber says about I thou, because he clearly values, and we do too, the I thou relationships. Someplace he gave the example of everybody living in an I thou, but nobody was doing the laundry and weeding
the very
garden and cooking dinner.
It's the very next paragraph.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
I hadn't reread that far, but
Sure.
That's the world we live in.
Mm-hmm.
The I it, and he wasn't saying that's a bad world.
Right.
And
Right.
I think I needed to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is the world we live in. And then we get glimpses, if we're lucky, of I thou relationships. And I think the challenge for me is to look for those I thous, to recognize them when they're sitting right in front of me, and to be present to them, because you can miss them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
whether the thou is my 6-year-old granddaughter, or my 24-year-old granddaughter, or a perfect stranger. And so, yeah, I read Buber when I was in college. I can't believe
Good for
that.
you.
Yeah, well, you know, it was a good St. Louis University philosophy class. It wasn't just something I picked up off the shelf. And out of everything, I always remembered his I thou. That
Mhm.
was the thing that stuck in my head. And so I was thrilled to be reading him again as an adult, and getting much more mature view of what he has to say to us. And yeah, I've had a few more I thou experiences since college.
Good.
Good.
I was going to say that for me, Judy and I traveled together not long ago to Chautauqua. And for me, I find that excessive planning, if you will, often makes it possible for I thou moments to take place. In planning a retreat, in planning a trip, it ends up being the I thou moments, the chance for reflection, the chance to really be present, for me, are facilitated if a lot of the details have been taken care of ahead of time. Because otherwise I'd be thinking about, you know, what's for dinner tonight? Where are we going to shop for it? How are we going to do that? Did we get tickets for tomorrow? Da 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 da. And having it, I'll tell you point blank, I'm a world-renowned planner. But I also think it makes a lot of things possible if that's done in advance.
And you are really good at it. I'd have to bring that up because you just are. It's overwhelming to me to try to fit all those things in. And she does it without a problem.
Thank you for that endorsement, Judy.
You know,
Were you ever with someone that you you felt, it's the key is felt, that the communication was, you were being treated as an it, and what you were yearning for was a thou?
Mm.
That's very painful, I think, for me.
Can you give an example of that?
Um, well, they're also very personal.
Yeah, and I don't want you to do anything, say anything that makes you uncomfortable.
It's just a feeling and an experience where you meet someone that you've heard about and you're spending time with them, and they're very much sort of in control. And what my yearning is to just stop being in control and perhaps engage instead of talk at, but talk with and to.
Yeah.
And so I always think it's my fault. And then I step back and think it's nobody's fault. It's the
Right.
reality. That person was not in a moment to see me as the horse that didn't look him in the eye, the horse that kept eating, where I was yearning to be engaged rather than looked at or talked at.
Yes, yes. Jen McCabe, do you want to add something?
Oh, I can think of an example just from a few weeks ago when I needed to go in for some mammography screening and
Oh, yeah.
and I used to be a hospital chaplain, so I'm forever critiquing the hospitality or the lack thereof from the staff people. And I'm like, all it would take is making eye contact and saying, we're glad you're here. All it would take. Yeah. And so I try to do that. I try to bring what I desire forward and make that contact. And usually it works.
Oh, very good. Very good. Thank you.
But it can feel hurtful, like you said, Carol.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, now would be a good time for me to come back. This past week, I facilitated a retreat in Galena, Illinois, and we used this little book. You can't see it. It's called Just This by Richard Rohr. It's a little tiny book, and it is all about, there are 12 prompts and practices in it. And there's a series of small essays at the beginning that prepare you to then see and hear the prompts and practices. The very first prompt, and these are, Richard is helping us to experience just this. In other words, be able to understand and appreciate what's right in front of us and not look beyond it, not focus on the past. And he says the following. I think you'll enjoy this. This is under a chapter called, the prompt is called Beholding. When I've sent people into the woods on a retreat, I tell them to draw a symbolic line in the sand somehow and truly expect things on the other side to be special invitational, or even a kind of manifestation. It always works. On the other side of that log or lawn or line in the sand, they start beholding. And someone who is truly beholding is, first of all, silenced with the utter gratuity of a thing, a tree, a bird, even an insect. You find yourself giving it voice, allowing it to have an inherent dignity, and you let it give you a leap of joy in the heart and in the eye. So brace yourselves, here it comes. What has happened is that you have begun to meet reality subject to subject instead of subject to object. I and thou instead of just I and it. Once you can change your actual expectations, the resonance between you as seer and what you can see will also change. And so I invite you, like Jan did earlier, to think about the word behold. Almost the only time you hear that word is in scripture. I mean, we don't use it in common language. I don't say, Mary Susan, behold. But it's a word that does signal we're about to see something different, new, important. And so what Richard encourages us to do, and we're not going to do it right now, but I invite you to think about doing it perhaps later, is he invites you to go out, sit, pick some place to sit, and pick a life form that then allows you to behold and be held. Because if you are beholding the tree, the twig, the piece of cake that someone baked, you are also being held by it. And you are beholding. Jan, what would you like to say, McCabe?
Oh, I didn't know I put the hand up. That must be a new trick. Oh my goodness. Well, I was thinking about a prayer in the Eucharistic rite that often comes to my mind, because it uses the word behold. So it goes something like, behold the Lamb of God, behold those who take away the sin. Lord, I am not worthy to receive you, but only say the word and I shall be healed. Now that might be the old way. I don't know. I'm not current. But it's fun. You're kind of inviting a new way to consider that. So behold the Lamb of God also means I'm being held. So I'm beholding and I'm being held. Yeah. And of course we need to apply some creation spirituality to the last part of it, because we really are worthy, but that's another story.
We're not going that far down that prayer. Although Buber does shortly. Please, Mary Susan.
I was having a hard time following that reading, and I feel like maybe I've encountered some of these like I thou experiences, but it's mostly an accident. And so the idea of preparing yourself for like really being there, I'm like, how do I do that? I mean, I have some ideas, but still Like, do you just have to stay awake and when it happens, notice it, right?
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
don't know.
Mhm.
There's part of me that wants to make it happen.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you've signed up for a class to talk about all of this and to read this book. It's making some of it happen.
Yes.
I just looked up the word behold, and it's looking at something in a remarkable and impressive way. And this morning out in the garden, I had a I thou moment with a spider that's weaving between two large dahlia plants, and I've been gone a week. So I'm approaching this bed, raised bed with these dahlias that are 6 feet high, looking at all the blooms that have bloomed this week. It's been fading, but now it's got a regrowth with some rain, etc. And I was just looking at them. And right in front of me, something called, something just called me to focus, not on the flowers, but the space between the flowers. And it was where the spider was in the middle of the space, and you could see where the web, the web was.
Yeah. Yep.
And we didn't move. We were just together.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mm.
It was truly Kairos time.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of a little, I don't know how to express. I kind of want to be there again.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
I love words that when you use them a little bit differently, all of a sudden they take on whole new meanings. So behold, beheld, beholding, and being beholden.
Mm.
Does that work in this context? Being beholden to something? That's a word that we tend to hear in modern day parlance.
Doesn't it have some negative connotations? Beholden?
Like debt. I'm indebted to you,
Oh.
right? But it also can mean bringing our creation spirituality into it. If we are beholden, and if we truly behold all the life forms and all of this divine presence around us, we are then responsible. We owe a debt of gratitude, of care, of recognition, if nothing else, of conservation, of correct use. That's how I tend to think of it.
Mm, I like that.
Mhm.
Mm.
So let's keep going. We are down a little further in that page. We've gone by the story of the village that was totally caught up in its I thou moment and forgot to cook dinner, wash the dishes. And then we get to the final paragraph on that page where it says, we are born with the thou instinct, says Buber, or what he calls the instinct for communion. Isn't that what an I thou moment really is? Communion?
I had an experience this week. Was anybody at the Faith and Place lectures? There were 4 online, and then the last one you could go to if you found a site. So they were interviewing, I went to all 4 of them, so I'm trying to remember who brought this up. I think it was Dr. Carolyn Finney. And I know they recorded them all, and you could go back. I'm pretty sure it was at the end of her lecture. She talked about this experience in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And I can send you guys the link to it because I sent it to my friend. I said, you have to look at this. It was an experience, an 11-year experience where this gorilla, this mother gorilla got killed by poachers. And the baby was holding on and kind of crying with his mother because the mother was gone, but there, right? And so they're hauling off this mother gorilla and the baby's there. And this gentleman named Andre took the baby and held it because it was in such distress.
Mm-hmm.
And he just held it till it got comfortable, till it fell asleep. And he became the gorilla's, the baby gorilla's mother, essentially, caretaker for 11 years.
Oh.
And finally, she was reaching the end of her life, and they're sitting against a wall. He's against the wall, and the gorilla's against his chest, and you can tell that the gorilla's much bigger than it was. And there's a photograph of it. But what Dr. Carol Finney said is that the person who took that picture realized the moment and like was going to stay and take more pictures, but then they're like, no, I have to leave. This is intimacy at its finest. This is like the photographer recognized the intimacy of the moment. It was so beautiful. And when I looked up and saw the pictures and read more about it, I was just touched deep, deep, deep in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
To have the I thou with another species that most people are afraid of.
Yes. Yeah.
And many people will kill just because.
And how wonderful that that reporter perceived, or the photographer, I should say, perceived that it was time to go.
Yeah, that was really touching too.
Mhm.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
as you were telling that story, a notice dropped on my computer screen. Maybe it dropped on yours too. That Jane Goodall, 91 years old, just died.
Oh my.
Nothing's accidental. It
Oh
is
my
Wow.
gosh.
she's the I thou for so
Wow.
many of us with the
What
oneness. And
synchronicity. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
she was just in Chicago. I wonder if she was here for the doctor. Yeah, she's she would be a person I wanted to spend time with.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that something?
Oh my goodness. It brings tears to my eyes.
Yes. I went to a few live Zooms where she was talking, and she said, it's such an incredible time. I can't go out, but I can be with people from around the world. And she was so animated and so much love exuding from her.
At 91. Oh. Oh. Thank you, Carol. No, I didn't get that notice. Oh, deep breaths, huh? Yeah.
How wonderful to think of Jane Goodall and think of that wonderful story of the parenting of the gorilla. It's so
Oh,
wonderful.
gosh. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's turn to page 56. And in the middle of the middle paragraph, let's read the quote. And I think Jan McCabe, you were probably the one that started us down this thought pattern. Yes, because you were talking about the Eucharistic prayer. So why don't you read this, the part that's in quotes, beginning the soul.
Okay. The soul which thou hast given me, O God, is pure.
And the next sentence.
It is a prayer that celebrates the essential sacredness of the soul, as opposed to the essential sinfulness of the soul.
Reaction?
Just a big yes.
Just as praise to be God that I have expanded from that
Mm-hmm.
way I was raised with the Baltimore Catechism. I didn't go to Catholic school.
And I think it's wonderful that John Philip reminds us in the first sentence of the next paragraph, in the Christian tradition, it's important to remember that Jesus was a Jew, not a Christian, because Jewish thought is that we are born sacred.
Politically today, oftentimes I'll say, or I'll hear people say, oh, that man, woman is evil. And I catch myself and say, well, not essentially.
Uh-huh.
And try to, and actually not essentially is what Buber is talking about.
That's right.
But boy, it's hard to believe sometimes, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it is. Yeah. Very much so. And in the on the next page, at the very top of the page, John Philip reminds us of his rabbi brother Nahum, who's the one that we encountered in the very first chapter with the statue that was at Iona. And he talks about the burning bush. And as my rabbi brother Nahum says, the important thing about this story is not that the bush is burning, but that Moses noticed, because every bush is burning. The whole universe is on fire with divine presence. We are being urged to notice. We are beholden to notice, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
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 So let's talk about the next paragraph. The Yahweh, the description of the name Yahweh. Did that ring true for you? The one who is beyond names is the breath of life. Yeah, yeah, it's very much on the mark. And to Buber, at the end of the next paragraph, he says, revelation consists of encounter. And that's so much of what I think John Philip correctly describes as what is motivating the search today. We have so many doctrinal pronouncements, but people are really longing for an experience of the divine. They want to touch into it. They want to really feel it. And it's the presence itself that acts as counsel. Those are his words, the presence. I think that's a beautiful substitute for the word God. Presence.
Mm-hmm. I kind of had fun with observing his comment. If one were to try to pronounce YHWH, however, it would simply sound like the exhalation of breath. And I didn't know that, and I thought that was really neat. And then it made me think about um, being sensitive to the awareness that the exhalation of breath can be a reminder of presence.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Every breath is a small resurrection.
I love Brother Joe Kilikevich says, when you inhale, think the word yes, saying yes to life. And when you exhale, think thank you or say thank you. But you can't talk on the inhale.
Right.
So
That's great. Sounds like a lot like Thich Nhat Hanh too.
Yes. Mhm, mhm. So on to the next page. So wow, here we hear this story about how Buber, after he gave this speech, how he was speaking to a much more orthodox group at the Jewish Theological Seminary, and he didn't observe quite as strictly as they do the Sabbath. So he would have gotten in an Uber or a taxi, but he chose to walk 50 blocks in the rain to get to his hotel out of deference and respect for his more conservative colleagues. Wow. Wow. How do you apply that to our world today?
My first impression, I thought he's a both and guy, just as Richard Ward teaches us.
Yep.
He honored himself, but he also knows to honor those who are practicing something slightly different. Now, in this case, he understands what it is, but Martin Buber, as we've read, is marked in his life by this respect.
How do we apply this in our world today?
It seems there's so many opportunities to respect the other today
Mhm.
I differ with. And I'm thinking of our political world in particular. I mean, this is the heart and soul of nonviolent protest or nonviolent presence. You don't have to protest. He wasn't protesting. He was simply acknowledging and not belittling something that made no sense for I don't even know how old he was, but I think elderly at this time.
Mhm.
And 50 blocks is a long ways.
Yes. Yeah.
To walk, period, and yet let alone in the rain. I mean, all of that was beyond expectation, and yet, he did that. So I think it's an example of accepting the other that you may differ with. There's many opportunities today to do that.
Jackie.
Yeah, basically, we don't, as Tony's saying, we really don't see this or hear about it, the respect and the other than thinking of ourselves or other people think of themselves. An example, I don't know, we got new software, we got a Microsoft 11, and then we also have Microsoft 365 or on our computers installed on, Carol has this too. And there's a news piece that pops up automatically with, highlights of stuff. And I noticed it's all who was shot, who, lost money, who died, and who drove their car. There was nothing other than sports, and even that was slanted. It's solid violence and horrible stuff. And that's just on this computer that, again, it's in our face so much, and it's so difficult. I mean, Carol and I were talking this morning. I mean, I'm just so sad about our world, and this is beautiful. The invitation is the presence, be in the presence is such simple stuff, but it's really hard to do. But we got to do it, I know. And so.
Well, I think we all must have opportunities all the time where we're encountering people who think very differently, whether it's religious doctrine, whether it's political philosophies, whatever it is. And is this an example that we should somehow put into practice?
Well, the experience I think of is some extended family members have a very different political outlook than I do. And so to go and hang out and have dinner with them is like walking 50 blocks
In the rain.
in the rain.
And I'm going to a wedding that's going to be like that in 3 weeks. Yeah, I think it's kind of a universal thing. One thing I want to bring up that this reminds me, it just came to my mind, it was so beautiful. The polarities have always been, between, different parties. And maybe you'll remember this. It was 1984. We had President Reagan as our president representing one party, and Tip O'Neill representing the other party in Congress. And they had a lot of clashes. But yet Parade magazine found this photo of them, and it's just like almost tattooed in my head, because it saw them in their personal relationship, just with a civil relationship as people, and could hang out, even though we're diametrically opposed. And that's where I see the shift in the last 30 years, that it just seems, if someone is diametrically opposed, then what happened to what I can see the humanity in you? Like I saw in these two true gentlemen, professionals, just came into my awareness, and it's kind of a nice memory for hope in the future.
Yeah.
I have a small example of something like this. I think that it's probably a smaller thing, but it's a respect thing. My husband works in rehabilitation medicine. So in the morning, when he comes into the patient's room, if the patient is Muslim, he has learned this morning greeting. And I can't even say it, but it's something like Mahazalalam or something like that. And he always makes sure to say it in a respectful tone, to say good morning to them in the prayerful Muslim language that they know. And when I first heard of that, I just thought, that's so kind of him.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
In about 1956, my father moved our family to Germany, and we lived as civilians in Germany. And we lived there for a very long time. We lived there for 6 years. That felt like a very long time to a 4-year-old. And my father became very close friends with a lot of people in this small town where we lived. So this is 10, 11 years after the end of World War II. We're in Niederulm outside of Mainz in Germany. My father's best friend became Eberhard. And in 2001, and they were really close friends for a long time. In 2001, our whole family went back and visited Aberhart and his family and his children. And I hold up that friendship because my father fought in World War II, excuse me. He fought in the Pacific, but Aberhart they were both conscripted, drafted by their respective armies. Aberhart was a Nazi. He had to serve in the Nazi army in those days. And at the end of the war ended and Aberhart was told to walk home from France. But these two guys became really, really close friends. I know for a fact, just knowing their two personalities, they didn't talk politics. They didn't talk about what their experiences were in the war. They just sang and drank and had a wonderful time together. And maybe that's what we need to be trying to do, is connect at some level, whether it's celebrating a love at a wedding or a good meal. But we need to figure that out, because if we can't talk to each other, there's no hope. There is no hope. So let's keep going. On page 58, he said, right after he talked about the walk, the beginning of that paragraph that reads, Buber may not have believed that our encounters with the living presence translate directly into statements of faith or into religious laws to be strictly followed. I agree with that. He says in the middle of that paragraph, it is like the moon rising in a starlit night. In other words, these I-thou encounters, where I respect you, I treat you as having the presence of God in you, is like the moon rising. We don't know what it's going to dictate, what it's going to ask of us, but it's a moment to be proven true in our own lives. So on to page 60, flip over to 60. And
Can I
let's
say something about the bottom of 59?
Please,
Your
please.
story about your German friends.
Yes.
And your father.
Yeah.
If on the very bottom, if to believe in God means to be able to talk about God in the third person, then I do not believe in God. But if to believe in God means to be able to talk to God, then I do believe in God. When you said, like, you don't think that these two men, your father and his friend, talked about religion or politics or the war.
Right.
They were just being real with each other, present, having fun.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Anybody else want to react to that statement at the bottom of 59? We can react to it, or we can even go to the middle of the next page, 60, where it says, it is sometimes argued that the word God should be dropped from our religious vocabulary. Agree or disagree? Judy? You need to unmute.
We had a huge discussion, and I think you can remember, Shelby, at the well about this. Younger people really, really felt like they didn't want to use the word God. They wanted to use spirit. They wanted to use universe. And this was really a huge, huge thing for us.
Yep.
And I think that what happened was when it was brought up to the sisters definitely wanted to use God. They did not, want to even think about it. So that was a done deal. We were done. But it was amazing to me to see what the young people were thinking about all this. It was very interesting.
And why did they feel that way?
I think they felt it was a turnoff to some people. And I don't understand why a name would do that. I don't know why you have to have, why a name would make things so hard. But to them, it really did. They felt it was old fashioned. They felt it wasn't open to new spirituality.
Well, I mean, I'm certainly not a young person, but I can understand that. I mean, I think we all have thoughts and feelings about God that we were taught that, I mean, the judge, I mean, we were always being judged, and, that's not a good image. I mean, and I remember conversations too. I think even when I was at the well, and, what do we do? And we did combos of stuff, but we didn't totally drop using God. And I still do that. I know we do that. We use other names for God, but we haven't dismissed God. But I get it. I mean, it's always an old man that judged me when growing up. That's what you always heard. I did.
Yeah.
And it's hard to put a new image on it. It's like, it's that old man. And for a long time, I just didn't like to even use the word. And I've kind of come back around, and I like what he said at the end of that page 60, that Buber called the word God, a primordial word. Kind of like Om and home and mom, that they all just mean something, nurturing. But I don't have a feeling sense of the word God like I do when someone chants Om, or even playing baseball, running home.
I think that's why I like Buber, because he does wrestle with it, and he's a both and instead of an either or person. So the partnership between Buber and Tillich is a wonderful partnership, and it's relational for him. The other is always essentially thou, but there's no thou unless there's me thou as well.
And he says that we forget that the source of the mystery is beyond name.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now I can say God much easier than Father.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And when people substitute Father for God, that's okay. But when they do the reverse, it blocks my prayer. Unless they say Father, Mother, or something like that.
And of course, Joyce Rupp has a book, 365 Names for God.
Yeah.
One for each day.
Yeah.
Well, also in the Muslim faith, all the names of God. If you've never read the list, it's just beautiful.
Oh.
Now they are putting 99 a certain number of names, but I mean that's what they came up with. But it would be worth your while if you've never read it. It's lovely.
Oh, wow. I'd love that. Yeah.
Yeah, you just can Google.
Sure.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. So somebody react to the story of John Philip's encounter on the airplane with the young woman flying to Atlanta to meet her betrothed. Carol, what's that look?
Oh, hold on. Her religious practices just about killed me. And so the story isn't so much about the relationship between herself and the other passenger as, oh my God, she is absolutely leaving everything she knows to be married to someone who she doesn't know at all. I was blocked by all that.
Okay.
There's no way I do it.
This story reminded me of when I was at Aquinas in grad school of Father Jose, who came from India. And once we were in a small group just chatting about, what's new in your week. And then his week was his sister was coming to the States to meet her husband. She had an arranged marriage. And this was in the year 2002. And so, of course, it was, he was Christian, but there are other people in his family who are not Christian. And so was marrying another Hindu who lived in the States. And this was his sister. And this is in 2001, 2002. So when I was first reading the story, Father Jose came to my mind. But what a transformative encounter for both John Philip and Parupa, whatever her name was.
Pushpa.
Yeah, Pushpa. It was just such a beautiful story. Wow.
Yeah, I thought so too. Because he got beyond all of the veil, her fears, her uncertainty. He just looked directly into her eyes and said, you are a woman, you are Indian, you are a daughter, and I think you are a Hindu. To which she nodded, but none, and he says this, but none of these words capture the heart of your being.
That's right.
You are always more than anything that can be said. Such an I-thou encounter rather than an I-it encounter. And it would have been so easy for him to say nothing or not even interact with her. Open a book. I do that on the plane all the time. Open a book so that you don't have to talk to the people next to you. And that's the I-it. I don't want to engage, but he does.
This part that he says to her, I just think is so profound. Near the top of 62, about the fourth line down. If I were to try to speak into the heart of your being, this is the word I would use, thou. I would use it to speak to that part of you that cannot be named, that part of you that is divine and forever free. And I think if I was in that woman's shoes, that would be like, I mean, I'm not in her shoes, but I'm in my shoes. And I feel it like there's a part of me that is divine and forever free. It just feels really deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And for those of us who've met John Philip, he has that kind of presence. If he were to say that, and he, spoke with many of us often, you can imagine it would be a very impactful experience. Can you see yourself saying this to Somebody in your family on the other side of the political spectrum?
Mhm.
I guess I sort of turned that around and heard him saying that to me.
Mhm.
Do I believe what he's saying about me? You know, the part of you that cannot be named, that part of you that is divine and forever free. Those are good words. To just believe.
Mhm.
Yeah. My husband worked at a company that had a lot of Indian employees. And so over the years, we met many Indian brides that came to be with these very desired men who had technical jobs in America, and helped some of them assimilate here. And it sounds so foreign to our culture, but it's not to theirs. And the children again, in the 2000s, this was probably still going on today in some parts of India. The parents are very perceptive in knowing their children and the kind of people that would make lifelong partners for them. And in some, in many cases, the children let that happen. They don't just fight it, And I don't know what the opportunities are to really meet people who are like you in the sort of the free market of India, but it's a cultural tradition that's not frowned upon by the people that engage in it. So I think we forget that culture really does change things. The way you grew up, the way your country is, the way you see time, all of those things.
And we're proud of being a multicultural country.
Yes, we are, except we're still American.
Yeah.
And there's many things that are culturally American that are not
right
at all even understood by the rest of the world. So
yeah,
gotta be careful.
So let's go on to maybe what we'll do is use as our last prompt here the last paragraph on page before the tulip on page 63. Jackie, maybe you'd read it. Start with, we cannot produce I-thou encounters.
We cannot produce I-thou encounters, but we can prepare ourselves spiritually through meditation, silence, and prayer to be more open and ready to receive these encounters when they are given. And the only time and place to receive the gift of meeting the divine is in one another is here and now, by being present to every moment and every encounter of life. It can be called the now of thou. This whole chapter's been this. I mean, the very first sentence, that was the invitation.
Yep.
To find the divine in everything, everyone. So the invitation is given over and over again for us.
It is.
And hopefully we can receive it.
Yeah.
Well, the other side of that is what we just talked about. Even if we can't produce I-thou encounters, we can precipitate them in others. That's what John Philip did for the Indian woman. He created that I-thou encounter by his open and honest conversation with her. And I think somebody challenged us to go to these family gatherings where we know there's differences, and I'm on my way to one in a couple of weeks as well. And so do I dare? Do I dare reach out to somebody else? So am I missing that, or is it? Do you guys all see it that way? That
I think I disagree with your characterization of him initiating this. Because if you go back and look again on page 63, when he describes, they said a brief hello like most people do when they sit down on an airplane. But then he looked at his notes and fell asleep. When I woke, the young woman gently tapped me on my arm and pointed to the notes on my lap, and she asked, "What does 'I am who I am' mean?" So in other words, she started this. She initiated the encounter.
Okay.
And isn't that, what am I trying to say? Isn't that how we, if we are open, if we are truly present,
Yeah, we're present.
we can respond to the invitation,
Yeah. Okay.
right?
Yes. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
This last line, and the only time and place, brings me to the very end, the heartbreak, but the absolute faith in Buber, saying, and I think you mentioned it a little bit, anti-Semitism, and when he talks about the creation of the Jewish state, and then he says, even way back then,
Yeah.
my people are doing the same thing to the Palestinians, the Muslims, that the Nazis did to us. So I love this chapter because it's so so inviting to I thou,
Yeah.
I thou, rather than I it, and
Yes.
and that's why his heartbreak is that the Israeli state, the Jewish state, Israel, makes the Palestinians its.
Yep.
And so you can, and isn't that what we read every day and hear every day in the news now?
Aren't we there?
We are
Aren't
there. We are
that
there.
reality?
So this
Yeah.
chapter is very current.
It's very current. It's very prescient. Is that's the right word?
Well, and Buber was alive during our lifetime.
Yes. He
Many
died
of
in 1965.
Exactly. I mean, many of the people we're reading about, well, yes and no. I don't know. Thomas Berry was alive during our lifetime, and so, and Nan Shepherd. Yeah. So maybe they all are, which is not always true when we talk about mystics and influential people, that we can say they lived. I lived when they lived.
Mhm. John Philip picked the perfect profile to embody seeking presence. That's Martin Buber, to be sure. Any final words before we close? He's an amazing, we've learned a lot from what it really means to be Jewish.
And this is their Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, so it's a good time to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. A perfect time to be studying this. There are no coincidences. So we will take a break and let me travel down to South Carolina and get situated. And then we'll all be on Zoom together. The next time is October 22. And we'll be talking Carl Jung. Yes. So have a wonderful trip, Carol, with all your travel companions. And everybody be well until we next meet. And I will let you know for sure if I'm going to be physically present here on December 17th.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Take care.
Yeah,
Bye now.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Oh, I love this book.
22nd, I'm flying home from Detroit.
Oh, good. How nice. Is that where your family is?
Amanda's there with